Hello. Hello, sunshines. Oh my god, there's like 3 different things going on right now. Hello. Let me go ahead and check stream sound. Give me 1 second. How does the background music sound? Is it balanced? Hello, Sickness! I think my voice is a little quiet. Hello, Vane! Welcome to stream! But let me know if it's okay. I don't listen to my own I don't listen to my own BGM, so it doesn't really matter to me. But if you guys want to hear my voice a little clearer, I can always turn on the BGM a little bit. Welcome! Hello! Happy Wednesday. It's been a while. You guys see what I got going on screen today? So 1, we have a camera, because we're doing something desk cam related. Oh my god! And then I have a little Fugi that I commissioned from Kana Arts. Oh, I don't think I put their stuff down in the description, so I will go ahead and add that. I wasn't planning on using the Fugi today, but I'm glad that I did, because I really freaking love this Fugi. Let me go ahead and find their stuff. Oh wait, I actually have 4 new things. Okay, copy this. How are you guys doing? How's your week going? Okay. Alright. Boogie. Oh shoot. Have I not been crediting my model? No. At Miikutea. Here we go. Shoot. I need to go back through my VODs to check on that. I made mashed potatoes and gravy from scratch. I'm so happy. That sounds so good. Oh. The mashed potatoes sounds like the easier part, but what about the gravy? How did you make the gravy? Alright, we'll just leave that up there for now. I got to have some of my grandma's food tonight. I am satisfied. It was soup too, and I love soup. I was really happy about that. Hi, Chi! Welcome to stream! Hello! Happy Wednesday. So we have the main object for today. And then, I know Halloween was last week, and I also want to talk about Halloween. But I want to get started on this first, because I don't really know how long it's going to take. And then we can just converse, make our way through it. So tonight we have something special. This is an old project from 2 years ago. I had bought this pattern from Joann's, the arts and crafts store. They were having a big sale on these patterns, and at the time I had started wanting to try to put together my own clothes. And so I was just like, you know what? I really want to try to make a skirt using this pattern. It was like $2. And little did I know that these things are incredibly hard to interpret. And they're incredibly hard to follow. So as a beginner, it was very difficult for me to understand it and to figure out how it worked. So what I ended up doing is I ended up taking this project to go to a local sewing class that happened on the weekends. And I was able to ask for help on how to put it together. I wish the class had a little more one-on-one. There was only one instructor for like a bunch of people, and the amount of people who came every week sort of varied. But yeah, I was able to do actually a mock-up of this skirt before actually buying fabric to use for it. And I was proud that I was actually able to make it, but I don't say that it it looked good. It was so bulky, even though I used a very basic cotton. I think the skirt was supposed to be more bunched. If you can see, like, the skirt has these, like, I don't know, can I do this? Yeah, the skirt has these little ridges in it, and that's because when you're trying to put together the waistband, you're supposed to start bunching the fabric together before sewing it in order to give it that look. And I think I just didn't do it enough. And so, like, maybe the waist was a little, like, cinched, where a little bit of bundling of the material, but the rest of the skirt was like, it was just a big hoop, a big circle. And I was so unhappy with it, I ended up throwing it away. Should I have kept it for a reference? Yes. Yes, I should. But did I? No. No, I didn't. So we're gonna be taking this apart today. We're gonna try to figure out where I left off. Yeah, so I think when you first open up a pattern, you're gonna have 2 different sheets of paper. 3 different sheets of paper? Oh, I also made notes on this. Okay, this is the first page. What is this? Oh, okay. Oh my god, there's so much on here. Okay, so there's actually 3 pieces of paper. So you're going to get 2 sheets, maybe 1 sheet, or 2 sheets of paper that give you the instructions on how to actually put together the skirts. And then the last piece of paper is actually going to be this very thin, transparent, like fabric here. Or not fabric, this is actually paper, it's tissue paper that has all these different words and lines printed on it. Hi, hello Brendan, welcome to stream, how are you? Let's unfold this. Wow. Okay. Yeah, so this tissue paper is the pattern itself. A pattern is... Let me look up the definition of a pattern. Hi, Sonny. Hello, Vivi. Good evening. Let's see. Sewing pattern. Hi, Sonny. Hello, Miss Fizz. Oh my god. Everyone's coming in. Hello. We're looking up what a sewing pattern means. Sewing pattern meaning. If I were to guess based on what I know, it's a template that you use to cut out your pieces of fabric so that they're the right shape to be sewn together. Funnily enough, this whole thing I think is called a pattern, whether it's this tissue paper plus the instructions. I think it's all called a pattern, so let's look this up. Okay, Wikipedia. In sewing and fashion design, a pattern is the template from which the parts of a garment are traced onto woven or knitted fabrics before being cut out and assembled. Okay, that was correct. This tissue paper is the pattern itself. So then I guess these 2 papers over here would just be the instructions. And so why patterns are useful is that when you're making clothes for yourself, it's very common for people to just take their own measurements and then trace that out onto a sheet of fabric and then try to make something from there. But these designs are mass produced and they're able to figure out different sizes. So if we look here, there's the number 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14. So depending on your size, you're going to be cutting the fabric to this length. And it is also okay to actually cut the pattern here to the size that you want. So let's say you're only doing this for yourself and you are a size 12, then it'll be easier for you to use the pattern if you just cut along all the lines that indicate the fabric needs to be this size in order to fit a size 12 person. I am looking at this right now and I'm like, oh my god. What is in this? Oh, there's two different layers. Oh, okay. How many parts are in this? So if I had to guess, the skirt's like this, right? You're gonna need either 2 parts to make the semicircle like this, or you're gonna need 3 parts. So one where my knuckles are, that's a part. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 parts like that. To be honest, I don't remember which one is which. This is very intimidating. It is, which is why it's exciting, but also making me nervous. To try to figure out how this works, especially without looking at it, without having looking at it for 2 years. But I thought it'd be fun to try to figure this out together. So let's actually look at the bag itself. So if you look, this is probably their catalog number, what number pattern this is. Simplicity is the brand that makes these. Size, so it tells you in the US size what this pattern will fit. So it'll fit sizes from 6 to 14. Obviously, these are very generic sizes. I think they have patterns for more specific sizes as well. I don't know how easy those are to obtain, actually, now that I think about it. And then it shows you here the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different ways that you can sew a skirt using this pattern. And each one of them has a different fabric, right? And I think that's just to show the many different ways the skirt can look with different fabrics. It doesn't include fabric. Oh yeah, none of the patterns actually include fabric. You have to buy your own fabric. To give you a price range, cotton fabric is about $8.99 a yard. And you need about 3 yards to do one skirt. So already you're sinking about 24. That's like $32 for one skirt. So making your own clothes is not cheap either. It is not. It is definitely an investment. Now we're gonna flip it over. Oh, as you can see here, this pattern was originally $16.95. I got it for like $2, which is really good. Hello, hi Bismuth. How are you doing today? Welcome to stream. Yeah, it was made in 2014. Designed, manufactured, and printed in the USA. It's funny because when we start reading this, you will think that they are not speaking English. It is so funny. I've not used a pattern, just winging it plus videos. The pattern I bought recently, looms. Whoa, that's really cool. It's it can be hard to start. So like whatever way that you can get yourself to start sewing is great. Just hang in, hope you're doing well. I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I'm trying to focus on taking care of myself, and yeah, thank you for asking. I'm doing all right. So, also Flames, welcome to stream. Thank you for coming. Let's read this. Okay, so this is all in French, and wait, never mind. I think that's just all in French. So this is in English. So at the top here, wow! At the top here, it tells you what kind of fabrics that work with this pattern. So that's important because you can have, for example, a pattern for a vest, but what if the vest was only meant for leather? And you're trying to use something like a very thin, very loose fabric. That's not going to work. So you want to pay attention to the types of fabric that it can use. don't know there's so many different types of fabrics. I really only know cotton and polyester, but there's so many more, and there's so many more like subcategories of fabrics. But some examples are batiks, brocade, chambray, cotton types, crepe, linen, pique, satin. What's the difference? I have no clue. Chiffon. Extra fabric needed to match plaids, stripes, or one-way design fabrics. So this last part is interesting because it just mentions that for fabrics that are directional. So if you look at my skirt currently, it's just a bunch of old-looking flowers, right? Honestly, I don't know why I picked out this fabric. It looks like a pillowcase from my grandma's house. But I'm like, oh my god, this will be such a pretty skirt. But as you could tell, the flowers are pointing in one direction, this way. So that means when I flip this over, the flowers are pointing this direction towards the belt area of the fabric. And so let's say, for example, you have just stripes going across your skirt. You're not going to want to assemble your skirt so that one part of the fabric has the stripes like this and one part of the fabric has stripes like this. Sometimes, in order to make the stripes align, especially if you're combining more than one pieces together. So, for example, the belt piece here has an additional piece that is going to be sewed on in order to make the belt area. So that fabric has to align directionally when it goes on here. And so sometimes you need more. So that's what it means. But I also thought about going over that too, because fabric directionality is really important. Some fabrics are on the top part of the fabric, like this is the back of my hand is the top part. The colors are really vibrant, and then when you flip it over to the bottom, it's very light. Yo, hello Snooey, welcome to stream. How you doing? It could be very light, and so that's also directionality. And that actually brings us to a really important sewing term that for those of you guys who haven't done sewing before, this will be your first introduction to it. So when talking about fabric, either the top part or the bottom part, the front part or the back part, the side and whatever side, there's going to be a right side and there's going to be a wrong side. Why that has some sort of connotation with like morality, right and wrong, I'm joking. That's not actually a thing. But but it's important to know a right side from a wrong side, because the right side is going to be the side of the fabric that faces you. So when you're wearing a garment, where you put your, let's say a skirt is like this, where you put your legs in, the wrong side of the fabric is going to be facing on the inside because no one's going to see that. And then the right side of the fabric is going to be what's presenting on the outside. I should have, hold on, let me grab an example. Oh my god, what is this? Did I not even finish cutting this thing out? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, interesting. I made notes. Show that. Hello, Kyle. Welcome to stream. Looking forward to the evil sewing. Don't worry. The evil pattern will take us out first before we even start sewing. Whoa! Huh? make my model go away when I do that. You guys see all sorts of things you shouldn't be seeing. Okay, so I have this little notebook. Look at the print. It's so cute. But this is when I was making the skirt the first time. So it looks like there's only 3 parts to the skirt. So it's one, which is a big front piece, and then it has the 2 little side pieces there that are connected. The skirt also has pockets. God bless. A skirt without pockets is... Oh, Misfits, I think I missed your comment. LMAO, yeah, my grandmother has drapes looking like that. Oh my god. It's really old grandma core. Gather skirt to fit the yoke. Okay, yoke would have to be this. Pockets are necessary and beloved. They sure are. And attach the yoke. Alright, so this will be useful when I'm actually trying to, like, put together this thing. Ow! Why is it when I turn away, it like... What? Okay, so we're gonna use, we're gonna... Sonya is suffering from the skill issue for real. Okay, so we're gonna use this t-shirt as an example. So this is just a button-up t-shirt. It has sharks on it because I love sharks. Why not sharks, right? So this is where the buttons are. This is, if you were to put it in front of you, this is where you would button it up. So this is the part of the fabric that faces the outside. So this would be the right side of the fabric. Do you see how bright the sharks are? So now I'm going to flip it on the inside, the part that touches your body, and you can see that the sharks are very dull. And that's because the print is only on one side of the fabric. And so when you're putting together any sort of garment, you want to make sure that if your fabric has some sort of print on it, that is the side that's going to be facing the outside, and then the other side is going to be facing you. And so, do you know how I mentioned that the skirt, it's going to have, so this is called the yoke. Why? I don't know. I vaguely remember talking about this in the class, but the yoke is going to be one of the parts that goes around the skirt. And so the fabric has to be aligned in a specific way to look good. Same thing here. So if you look, the way that this t-shirt was constructed, they actually, I think this is double-sided here. So when they made this, they folded the fabric over so that, and then they sewed it so that the right side is on either side of the collar, despite the inner part of the collar being on the inner part of the shirt. Does that make sense? Because you can see the contrast here between the fabric that has the right side facing this way and then the wrong side facing that way. So it's almost like if the back of my hand is the right side of the fabric, they had it this way and then they flipped it over and then did this. So yeah, that's a little more clear example. I found additional parts. I'm guessing this is like a part of the yoke. I didn't realize this project was where all my colorful pins went. I was like, what? How did I lose all of these pins? It turns out they were just in this project the entire time. All right, so let's see. Oh. Oh. I know what happened. All right, so one of these is number 3. One of these is number 4. And the reason why, okay, I have all this extra fabric over here. And the reason why I kept this fabric together is because I needed to cut out the pockets. Because that's what that is. This is. So number 5, I'm guessing that this is the, actually, I don't even have to guess. We can check the instructions. I was actually just working on a midi gathered skirt. I put it down because I had to seam rip something. Oh no! Seam ripping is so discouraging because you're like, I put in all that effort to making that happen and then it didn't turn out well. And then you don't even want to continue because you're like, what if I mess up again? So that's tough. That's tough. I get that. Howdy. Hello, Derpius. How are you doing? Thank you for coming to stream. How many pieces are there? Here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the last piece is going to be this pocket piece, and that's probably why, because if you have leftover fabric, there's no need to hang on to it unless you want to try to make another like project out of it. But chances are you have such little fabric left over that you're not going to be able to use it for anything else except for really small projects. But even still, like if you look at this fabric here, that, oh, that's really, oh, I know why I chose this fabric. That's really pretty. Hello, greetings. Just saying hi though. Hi, welcome to stream. Thank you for saying hi. I hope you're doing well. Doing pretty well, just chilling. Yeah. I'm gonna disrupt your chill with some complicated sewing vocabulary and stuff. Yeah, actually, I'm looking at this fabric. Look how deep those colors are. Okay, I would like that on the skirt. This is very like fall colors. Another VTuber I know uses leftover fabric for pillow stuffing. Oh, that's interesting. I never considered that, actually. I guess depending on the type of fabric, it could be really comfortable. Maybe this is something that I'll do once we figure out what's going on. We can actually like do this on stream, but let's put that aside for now. So let's go ahead and look at the instructions. All right, so the second page is like the second half of the instructions. So we're going to look at this first. So you can see the full extent to the paper here. We're gonna start in the top left-hand corner. Zero waste lifestyle goes hard. I respect that. Like using old fabric to make other stuff. Yeah. So again, it's showing you the different types of skirts that you can make. This one's interesting here. The stuff that's on the edge of the skirt is probably ribbon. So if you wanted to make it look really nice, then you can add ribbon to the bottom here. So if we look at the next panel, it shows us these are the 5 different pattern pieces that come with the that actually come in this packet. They give you this general directions. So oh, you can also go onto their website at www.simplicity.com to look at the instructions. To be honest, I don't think the website will describe it any better than it is here. Though that pillow is like butter in a sock. At least now I've seen it. Yeah, I could, like if you get like a polyester stuffing, that would probably be more comfortable because the fabric will just compress over time and become really hard. But I guess, again, it depends on the type of fabric. All right, so if you look on the left-hand side here, where it says the pattern, there are symbols. So there's something called the grain line, there's solid lines, center, front, or back, notches, dots, cutting line. We're not gonna go into that right now. We're gonna look at the overall pieces and then what pieces we have and how we're eventually going to end up combining those. So this is a little more complex terminology that I do not want to go into right now. This one's important though. So seam allowance. Seam allowance is 5/8 of an inch. So seam allowance is the edge of your fabric. All right, more sewing terminology for those of you guys who haven't experienced it before. So if you look at my fabric here, I cut it straight, right? Wait. Did I cut these using seam allowance? I want to place bets that I didn't. God dang it. Maybe that's why the pieces didn't work as well. Interesting. Okay. So it says here on the paper that seam allowance is 5/8 of an inch unless otherwise stated is included but not printed on multi-sized patterns. Mark your size with colored felt tip pen. So does that mean it says unless otherwise stated is included? So unless otherwise stated is included, which makes sense. So it's like it's gonna be there unless it says otherwise. And then it says but not printed on multi-size patterns. this is a multi-size pattern. So does that mean the seam allowance was not included? Because I'm pretty sure that... Because the actual belt isn't this thick. We're probably going to take 5 inches of an eighth and do something close to this, so then the belt is actually closer to this width. So if I had to guess, this does include the seam allowance on it, because I think if I was in the class, they would have told me to leave like seam allowance when cutting this out. So the fact that I cut it right along the line that I needed it to be, yeah, is what I think needed. Also, I don't know why why did I cut it to size 14? Because I'm pretty sure that using this pattern, I'm a size 8. So why did I leave it to 14? Is that something that I have to adjust? Oh my god. Looking back, oh my god, I blew that away. Looking back on this, I'm like, what did I do? Because in the moment, you think that you're doing the right thing, and then you're not. These sewing techniques seem useful. Yeah. Brain hort. Yeah, it's a lot. Every time I worked on this, I always needed a snack. So maybe I do have room to just trim this down more. So, yeah. Alright. What else does it say? Let's bring this really close. Adjust if needed. Make adjustments before placing pattern on fabric to lengthen. Cut pattern. Oh no, we don't need that. That's more complex stuff. I don't even know what that means. Cutting and marking. So before cutting the fabric, press pattern pieces with a warm, dry iron. Pre-shrink fabric by pre-washing washables or steaming, or steam pressing non-washables. So this is saying that I think this is important for any project that you choose to tackle, but you want to wash your fabric before so that if it does shrink, it doesn't shrink after your finished product, which would then change the dimensions. So yeah, if you wash your fabric before, then you're less likely to get like warps in your pattern. I wish I was there in person to see it, have a better idea if that did or didn't account for seam allowance, right? If I were to hold this up to you, it doesn't say seam allowance. Center back. Cut 4 of fabric. Cut 2 of interfacing. Oh, I forgot. I need interfacing. Blech. Okay. Do I even have some? I might have some from a long time ago, but... I don't think I see it on here. I would expect it to say include seam allowance, but it doesn't do that. So let's see what else. And then after cutting the fabric, transfer markings to the wrong side of the fabric before moving the pattern. Use pins and chalk method, or dressmaking, tracing paper and wheel. It's talking about different ways. When you have the pattern on top of the fabric like this. Well, I think I'll talk about that one later. Let's check in. How are we doing? Is this something you guys are familiar with? Have you guys tried using a pattern before? Am I explaining it decent enough where there's at least like, because this is all very terminology heavy, concept heavy. So let me know. Cutting layouts. All right, so it's telling you that anytime there's fabric on the paper, if it's colored in dark like this, that means the pattern side is printed down. If the pattern side is down, then that means the wrong side is facing you. And if the pattern is printed size up, then that means the pattern is facing you. Talking about selvages, I think we can go into that in a little bit. Right side, wrong side, interfacing, interlocking thread. All right, so before we even talk about putting it together, let's actually talk about the pattern. I feel like you're explaining it well, but oh, oopsie. But I don't know much about it to begin with, so maybe I'm not the best benchmark. That is okay. I'm happy to hear that. That at least I can communicate like some part of it. Oh, also, I didn't say this in the beginning. I think I did mention it in the description though, but I'm pretty beginner too. When I started this project, I went to a sewing class because I did not know how to put it together myself. And so I think eventually, if I end up pursuing this project on stream, I think I would then go and ask someone who does have more sewing experience how to interpret the pattern and then the steps to take on how to actually put it together. So that way when we put it together on stream, I'll have an idea of what I'm doing. All right. What is this? We're going to try to separate these two pieces. What number is this? This is number 1. So we're going to take a look at piece number 1. Oh, I know why that piece is really heavy. Okay. Interesting. All right. So simplicity. It says this is the front piece, number 1. This right here, so see if I can manually zoom. This might be terrible because I don't really know how to use this camera, but let's see if I can manually zoom it. Oh, I touched focus. Oh my god. That's funny. Hold on. Zoom. Can it not zoom in any more than that? That's as far as it zooms in. Okay. To be honest, I'm scared of touching my camera, but it's not like my other camera. I don't think I really have to worry. Okay, hold on. We're going to unzoom. Boom. And then we're just gonna move the camera closer because I'm pretty sure we have that capability. Yeah, would you look at that? Ow! It's it's right in front of the camera that I use for my VTuber. It's genuinely helped me to get a sense about what the pattern I have will be like. I think it's also simplicity. Oh, that's really cool. I'm glad I can help you out. All right. So we can just start looking at all the different stuff that's on here and trying to make sense of what it is for. So number 1, if we look back on the actual instructions, it's funny. I have a pretty big desk, but this desk is not enough to fit everything I have going on right now. Okay. 1. If we look at the notebook, so the notebook here says that the one piece goes across the front, and then you have the 2 pieces that come around the side like that. Funnily enough, by looking at this instruction right here, I would think that this is the front panel. That number 2 is the front. What in the world? Hello? Okay. Okay, I think that should be better. You would think that this front panel, because it's so wide, so if this is the skirt, I would think the 2 panel would be this, the front of the skirt right here. But wait. Oh yeah, okay. But it's actually the 1 panel that's right here, and then the 2 comes around the side. And you look at these shapes and you're like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know why. I don't know why it doesn't look like it makes sense. I guess it just does. So this is the front panel. I think what I did for this, because we need to... Is 1 folded in half? Is 1 folded in half? 1 is folded in half. Oh, you're so right, Cygnus. Oh my god. Okay. So 1 looks like the smaller panel, but that's because it's folded in half. So when you do this, then it's actually... I got you, thank you. Then it's actually a bigger panel. And then that's why 2 has this curve over by the waistband, because that curve helps to accommodate it helps to create the roundness of the waist area. So then 1, how do I do this with my hands? Because this is the front side of the fabric. So then, okay. If this is 1, it's folded in half. So when you unfold it, it looks like this. This is the front panel. And then 2 will come on the side like that. Yeah. Banger. This is how we try to picture it mentally in our head. All right. So it's telling us what view this is. I think that has to do more with the actual construction of the thing itself. I can actually go ahead and use this to reference it. So we're going to go over a lot of the little markings that are on here. So if you can see these little arrows, right? So the arrows are called notches. And so what the purpose of notches, when you have multiple pieces of fabric and you're starting to put them together, chances are they're not going to have this film on them. And that's because before you actually start putting together your fabric, you need to transfer all of the little markings, all of these little circles, these little notches here. I think that's all you really need from this. But you need to transfer all these little symbols onto the fabric itself. But remember that when you're cutting, sorry, what am I trying to say? Right now, the wrong side of the fabric is facing us. The right side of the fabric is on the inside of the skirt like this. So then when we're tracing these marks, they're going to go on the back side of the fabric, which is important because when you're putting together fabric to make a garment, the wrong sides always need to be together. Sorry, the right sides. The right sides need to be together, like this. And so if you look, the right sides are together. Because if you can imagine, if I were to sew a line down this way and then I were to open it up, the right sides of the fabric that are currently touching each other, when I open it up, they will become one uniform panel. Right? But let's say I have the right side of the fabric facing the wrong side of the fabric. When I open it up, it's going to be backwards. So one side is going to be facing you, and then the other side is going to be facing away from you. That's why it's really important when you're cutting stuff out, and you're going to you're going to start sewing it, right sides together. That is a for sure statement. Right sides together. Konnichi Soni! Hello, Curation! A Sony stream today is healing me. It's good to see you. How are you doing? There's a marking on panel 1 that means to line it on a center fold. Yes. So that one I will talk about in a second. Cygnus, how many patterns have you used before? Do you make a lot of your own clothing? Oh my god, I actually tore this a little bit. Okay, so sorry, we were talking about notches. So when your fabrics are right sides together and you're gonna start sewing down them, you actually cut out a little triangle in the fabric here. And so that when you have two pieces that are coming together, you align the triangles so that you know that they're in the right position. Because let's say you have this part of the skirt this way, you have a notch, let's just say this fingernail right here is a notch. But let's say I'm actually trying to put the fabric together, but the other notch is all the way over here. That means that my fabrics are misaligned. So the notches help to tell you that the notches should... Where am I moving my hands? The notches should match like this. Yeah. Because then when I go like this, the notches are on different sides. So then I need to make sure I need to change the orientation so that the notches fit. So those notches. Dots here, I think dots are where you start sewing. Yeah, so the dots are always going to be the start and the stop points of where you're going to sew. But, oh no. Yes? Because I know for sure that these dots are here because this is where the pocket is going to go. Fabric. Where did I put my fabric? It's underneath here. Here. So if we take this... Do you see how there are dots on this pattern piece right here? The dots align with the pattern piece here. So I think the dots tell you this is where we're going to be sewing something else onto it. But it's also that I think when we actually sew the pocket in, if I'm correct, you're gonna sew from here to here. So actually I have a computer. I can look this up. Let's see. Sewing pattern dots, meaning solid and open dots indicate placement to match seams or construction details. Pocket placement, pleats, gathers, single notch indicates the front of a garment piece is used to match pattern pieces for construction. Okay, so it's just another type of marker. So the notches tell you where the pieces are aligned. And then the dots tell you where other, more, I think, complicated things are. Yeah. If we go down this way, I took one sewing class that told me about some basic pattern stuff like markings. I would really like to go back to a sewing class. I think I just need one that's more suited to my learning style. Just because for me, it was just a lot of sitting, but also I couldn't concentrate because then people would want to talk with me. It was like a social thing, and I'm like, no, I'm here to learn. All right. This is the front. Cut one on fold of fabric. So, Cygnus mentioned that there is a line that tells you where the fold of fabric is. That is this big arrow right here. I don't know if I can get it all in the camera. Shoop. All right, the end of the arrow is here. And then the other end of the arrow is here. The arrow doesn't need to span the whole pattern, but what it's telling you is that this is a fold line. So when we have our fabric, it's saying that when you're putting the pattern on the fabric, instead of just laying it right on top like this. So for example, this actually has a fold line here. Okay, so if I were to undo this, oh my god, I put so many pins. I was so paranoid about making sure this doesn't come out of place. There we go. All right, so this is the total length of the fabric. So rather than just placing this piece on top like that and then cutting it here, it's saying that you need and like this is deceptive. This is only half of what you need. In order to get the other half, you need to fold your fabric in half. So that's what we're gonna do. Let me name this. All right, so I have my fabric. I'm gonna fold it in half like this. If you notice, the two layers of fabric here, the right sides are still facing together. And so even when I fold it in half, the wrong sides are facing together. But as long as the right sides are facing together on the inside, then that is okay. Fold this like that. So then when I place this pattern piece down, this arrow indicates that it's a folded line. So I'm not going to open this up because then it's going to get really messy because there's 2 layers of fabric on here. I'm pretty sure. Oh no, this is just one single layer. My bad. So if you look here, this is just one single layer of fabric. If I were to open this up, the right sides together, then it would look like this, with the right sides facing you, and then this is the fold line right here where my thumbs are. And that's because the one piece, if we're looking at the skirt again, the one piece is going to be this piece, big piece up here. I think that's all we really need for this piece. I think we can set this piece aside. That's number 1. When I actually go through this, I can probably cut it to 8. I really don't need to have it all the way up to 14 if that's not what I'm cutting it to. And the assumption is the seam allowance is included. That means that when I cut to 8, it is ready to put together. I don't have to cut to 12. If I cut to 12 and then were to sew at 8, technically then this would be, I would be making it to size 12 because it already includes seam allowance in it. Yippee! Alright. So we're gonna fold that in half. I'm really gentle with this because this is a very thin tissue paper, and once it's ripped, I can tape it, but it's gonna be hard to keep together. All right, number 2. So, the number 2 fabric, as we saw in my little notebook, there's two pieces. So that means when I was cutting this out, this is actually double layered. So if you imagine, wait, hold on. I have fabric here. Okay. So this right here, this is single layered. If I fold this in half, now there's, sorry, not single layered, double layered? This, oh, okay. This single piece of fabric is a single layer. When I double it, this becomes 2 layers of fabric. When I fold this in half, it becomes 4 layers of fabric. And what that allows me to have is 2 identical long pieces at the end. Right? And so because I need 2 pieces of the number 2 fabric, that means I have my 1 layer of fabric, right side facing you, my 2nd layer of fabric, right side facing in, because right side's together. There's no fold line on this, is there? Wait a minute. I finally did it and seam ripped the place I needed to. Oh my god! Congratulations, Flame! I'm glad you were motivated to do what you needed to do. Yeah, okay. So this is exactly the same. If I was to open this up, it would look like this. It'd just be 2 layers of fabric with the right sides in. But because the piece is so big, I folded it in half, and that's why there's 4 layers of fabric. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right now, if we look here, this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's see if I can I even open it up all the way? Do I even want to do that? I think my brain is burning out. I think this is so much thinking to try to figure out how to explain it too. My brain's like, huh? Maybe we'll take a break and then we'll come back to it. Yeah. Because this has a folded line. Does this need to be folded? It does not need to be folded. Maybe I just didn't cut it. Maybe I just didn't cut it. Okay. Wait a minute. I'm determined to figure at least this one out. This is more complicated than expected. Yeah. It is. Sometimes it just sucks. But this is why you don't underestimate sewing, and this is why you respect people who use patterns or even not use patterns to make their own clothing, because you have to have a really good mind's eye. You have to remember the directionality of your fabric in addition to how to assemble it. Oops, sorry, I smacked my mic. All right. This is what the piece looks like when it's unfolded. So that's one edge. This is the second edge. This is only 2 layers of fabric right now, question mark. You have my respect. Thank you. I appreciate it. And now you guys are learning it too, so that you guys have a step up against people who don't know how to read patterns. Yeah, very good mental exercise. Alright, so if I were to flip this over... This is piece number 2. So this is an arrow. It's just a floating arrow. It's not connected to the edge. If the arrow is connected to the edge, that means there's a fold line. So you have to make sure that your fabric is attached on one end. So for example, the edge of my hand here, that would be the end that it's attached. So when you open it together, it ends up being twice the size of what you need it to be. But if a... Oops. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oopsie. What? Oh my god, it's affecting my... Okay, there we go. Unfortunately, my camera has this really weird tilt. And so it'll want to change its orientation on its own, and I can't lock it, which is really weird. But let's say you just need 2 pieces, 2 identical pieces. So the one pattern that we saw over there, the one pattern was just one big piece, but it was folded in half, so you have twice the size. This one here is 2 individual pieces. So when you're cutting it out all around the edge, that means that when you're finished, you're going to have 2 pieces that when you peel them completely apart, they're going to be identical when you put them together. So in this case, we have the 1. This is going to be 2 and 2, like that. So we have more symbols, we have more dots, we have more notches. This is where the pocket is going to go. If you imagine the one piece is going to go right here in the edge. So we'd put the edge up like this. We put the edge up for the one piece up here, and then we would sew there. It is concerning to me why I put this pattern upside down, because on the other one it was not upside down. So why is it that this one is upside down? That's scaring me, because then what does that do to the orientation of the fabric? Wait a minute. 5/8 inch hem allowed. What does that mean? Does it mean that it's included? Is it not included? It says the 5/8 inches hem allowed. Allowed here? Do I have to allow it? Ah! I'm totally not thinking about the One Piece anime right now. When you have things in pieces, yeah, I get it. All right. That's number 2. All right, let's take that break like I talked about. I'm gonna go get my water because I didn't realize I didn't have it. I'm gonna make my model disappear so we don't get some wacky stuff like that again. I'll be right back. Shoot. Oogie, I'm back. I'm back. Yoop. All right, so then, enough break. I'm brain dead. I'm doing some hard work right now. Patting myself on the back. Let's take a brain break. Actually, how was your guys' Halloweens? How was Halloween? You guys enjoy Halloween? It seems harder figuring out where you left off than just restarting. That's why I finished pieces 1 and 2. So then we don't have to go back and do that. We could just continue on with 3, 4, and 5. And then we can actually start reading the instructions. That'll be the hardest part for sure. But as you guys know, I love Halloween. And so I was really happy to actually be able to go out. I did a cosplay with my friend. It was supposed to be a group, and then like 2 people didn't show up, so it was just us 2. But it's okay because we went hard on our cosplays. My friend went even harder. Their entire fit was so good. I was Sabine Wren from Star Wars Rebels, and my friend was Hera from Star Wars Rebels. Or actually, they're both in Ahsoka too, the Star Wars Ahsoka show. So that was really, really cool. We took some cool pictures together. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to actually tape the pieces of my armor. Well, okay, I was supposed to sew on Velcro onto a shirt so that it stays. And I did not have time to find a shirt or to put on Velcro, so I just tried taping it, and the tape fell off. So, like, maybe about 1/3 of the way into going out and looking at different houses, actually, trick-or-treating, I stuffed all my armor in my jacket, and then I put the tape at the bottom to prevent it from falling out. But it worked! That was crazy. I've seen the cartoon, but not Ahsoka. Ahsoka was good. I just think it's like, I agree with my friend in that it's really difficult to turn something 2D into 3D. I think they did a good job with it. Although I'm just so used to watching 2D things, I'm like, maybe it would have had more of like an emotional impact if it was in a 2D space, you know? Anyways, I don't eat candy. I don't really eat candy. Did I? I think I had like a lollipop or something just to keep me going. Or maybe like I don't like Hershey's, but I had Hershey's anyways just to keep me going. Because we were walking for a long time. And I was in like, imagine pirate boots. Wait, yes? No, I think my friend would describe it as like outlaw boots, but not like cowboy boots with the spurs on them, but they were like maybe some faux leather, and like the top of the boot is light brown and the rest of the boot is black, and so it definitely gives that like outlaw look. Cosplay seems like an interesting hobby. Cosplay is really fun. I mean, what we got going on here, I like constructing things. I like trying to figure out how to put something together, because it's very, very mentally stimulating. Candy kept me sane as the kiddos rang on my doorstop and rang on my door non-stop. That's cool. You got a lot of customers. That's good. I think the most disappointing part is when people gear up and no one goes to their house. But it's funny to think that like as you get older, you need you need artificial energy to keep up with kids, just like crazy energy, natural energy, you know? Yeah, it was really nice to walk around and see the different Halloween decorations. The one thing I noticed, or the one thing I realized though, is that like growing up as a kid, I loved Halloween because I was just like, oh my god, it's just one big like play day. Like we all get to dress up and we get to pretend like we're these people and we're all gonna do it together. It's a big fun like thing that we're doing together. And as I got older, I noticed it, but I was still a kid, so I could still like be chuny, right? But now that I'm older, walking around, I'm like, no, it's still normies doing normie things. I'm the only chuny here. So next time I will make sure to get either an even bigger cosplay group so we can all be chuny together, or I'll just host a party with my friends and we can be chuny. Yeah. That was fun. Cool. Yeah, people my age in town go to drinking parties with very little costumes. That's no fun! The whole fun of Halloween is putting together... Well, okay. Depending on how much time you have, maybe putting together your costume. Sometimes it's just easier to buy it. But like, if you treat it like cosplay, then you go out like thrifting a month in advance to try to find like base pieces that you can use, and then you start thinking about the little accessories and how to make those. It's very fun. Very fun. I just had so much going on that I really couldn't finish it the way that I wanted it to. So in the future, I would like to actually go out and like buy that big long sleeve that I can actually Velcro my armor too, you know? If you guys are curious about the cosplay that I did a stream not too long ago where I was trying to paint one of the armor pieces. You can check it out there. Alright. We don't have that much time left. I plan to end by 9:30, so we have a little less than an hour. Let's go back. Shoo! Shoom! Ta-da! Okay, so now we have the remaining 3 pieces. So let's see what this is. I don't remember how to assemble the yoke. The yoke is this area. Why? Oh, I was just like, why is this so close? Hold on. Aha! Camera. Don't invert on me, please. It's 11:40 for me. Oh my gosh. I didn't know it was that late for you. East Coast, yeah. I do know that you're East Coast. Thanks, guys, for staying up to hang out. The side of my desk. 10:40 for me. Okay, that's about 2 hours. All right. So we have piece number 3. Piece number 3 and piece number 4. All right. Pop quiz. These two pieces look pretty much identical. How do we know which piece goes with which pattern? Shock. Oh, this is hard. How can you tell just by visually? What about? Easy. One of these, it's a little hard to see. I'm sorry, Sensei, I don't know. It's okay. Let me tell you, youngin. This one right here has a fold line. So if we look at these pieces, we need to see how many pieces we got. So if we look at this top one, 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. That means we have 2 pieces that are right sides together but are stacked on top of each other. If I were to pull these apart, they would be 4 identical pieces. If we look at this one has a fold line. So we have 2 identical pieces, but that are long, that are double the size of the actual pattern. So when we look back at our pattern pieces, drum roll. This one, number 3, goes here because this is the fold line. And in number 4, does this have directionality? I have no clue. I didn't even, oh my God. When I cut this out, I didn't even mark the, see, it would have been helpful to do the notches here on the fabric when I cut it out originally so that I know how this is supposed to match. Howdy, Sonny. How's things going? I think pretty well. I ran out of brain juice for a little bit, so we stopped and talked about Halloween. But now we're actually getting to putting this together. I wonder if I were to flip this over. Ah, okay. So would you look at that? So if I flip this over, the only way that this would match is if it was face down. But if I were to flip this over the other side, then it fits on top with it facing us. Whoa, whoa, Inception. That's still something I haven't quite put my brain around. I don't have the brain power to understand how that works right now. Hey! You're tilted. Why are you doing that? See, I'm hitting my table and it wants to... Okay, just don't hit my table. Center back. So it could be like this or it could be like this. I'm pretty sure this is meant to be like this unless we flip this over. And then it's like that. To be honest, I have no clue. I didn't mark the notches. Well, that'll be something I have to look into in the future. Those are those 2 pieces. Last pieces would be this. So how many layers of fabric am I gonna need for this one pattern? Interesting question. If I need 2 pockets, then how many layers of fabric am I gonna need? And are they individual layers or are they folded? Ooh, spooky. Answer is, how many layers of fabric? 4. Oh, and are any of them folded? No. And why is that? Because we don't have we don't have the little arrow here. That means that there's a folded line. We have this. This is just the direction of the fabric, right? But why we need 4 individual pieces is because when you stick your hand in a pocket, there's fabric on top of your hand and below your hand. Those are 2 pieces that are sewn together. So if we're making 2 pockets, then we're gonna need 4 pieces total. And when we cut them out, we're gonna cut them out the entire length of this, and then when we pull them apart, they're gonna be 4 identical pieces. So that's that. So we went over all the pieces of the actual pattern itself. Now we're gonna read the instructions a little bit and see if we can figure out how to assemble it. I'm expecting this to be pretty difficult. All right, so AB skirt. Which one did I want it to? I think I wanted to do C. So if we look at this, I think I was following C. So this is AB. AB is not the kind of skirt that we want. AB is gonna be these really long skirts here. And so what these diagrams on the bottom here are telling us, when you have your fabric and pre-washed and everything, this is how you're gonna lay out the patterns to cut them out. So all the pieces that you saw that I put up here, those were already cut, which meant that I had laid out the fabric in a way that allowed me to place all those pieces on there, pin it so that the pattern can be actually on top of the fabric, and then I cut it. That's it. We're not going into any more of that. Let's zoom in. Let's get it to focus. Ta-da! Nice! Okay, so CD. C is the type that we need. It's telling you that it's worn 1 inch below the waist, typically. That's where it's gonna like cinch on your waist. This is how you need to align your fabric. So let's say I have a full yard of fabric, which is gonna look like this. It's asking, if you could see, there's 2 different layers. There's one here, and then there's one on top of that. That means I have to fold it like this. So my fabric is gonna be like this. The folded edge where my fingers are gonna be down here. So let's rotate this. The folded edge of my finger is going to be down here, and then the loose ends are going to be on top. And we talked about this earlier, but the instructions say that if it is dark, that means that the pattern is printed side down. That means the pattern is facing away from us, but these pieces here, the pattern is facing toward us. And I wonder if that means that we have to flip the orientation of the actual pattern itself. Probably not. If I were to guess, the actual pattern pieces would still be facing up. It's just that the fabric, the orientation of the fabric is going to be different. Because it wouldn't make sense to trace everything like this. Like, why wouldn't you want to see? You want to be able to read what's on here. And so that's probably why, in order to keep this facing you, they change up the fabric here. So here, this is pattern printed side. Wait a minute. I get it. My bad. I totally misunderstood that. I took that as fabric printed side down. No. Pattern printed side down. Okay. So for number 1, 4, 5, and 3, the pattern is facing up. For number 2, and in the rest of 3 here, because there's a fold line, it's upside down. So that's why when we looked at the number 2 piece, the pattern was actually upside down like this. I thought I had made a mistake. Okay, that's perfect. I did it right. Okay. sewing directions. So this is the sewing directions for skirt AB, which technically isn't what we're looking for, but these instructions I'm pretty sure are universal. Nope, they're not. We're gonna move on to the other sheet. Okay, skirt C, D, E, and F. So with right sides together, this is instruction number 1, right? Instruction number 1. Stitch center back seam of back and side front from lower edge to within 2 inches of notch. Back stitch at opening to reinforce seam. What? Okay. We know the first part with right sides together, right? Where are my little pieces? With right sides together, you're gonna stitch the center back seam of back and side front. What is the back and side front? What is that? So, yoke back. I think the actual patterns have names. Okay. So it's gonna be backwards, but this says back and side front. That's number 2. So it's saying that you're gonna stitch the back seam of back and side front, which is number 2, from lower edge to within 2 inches of the notch. Back stitch at opening to reinforce seam. Okay, I think I get what that means. It means that the 2 pieces that we have for number 2, for number 2 here, we only have 2 layers of fabric right here. And so it's saying that on this side here, we're gonna sew. That's what the drawing is here. We're gonna start 2 inches below the notch, and then we're gonna sew all the way down. So these 2 pieces are not connected by anything. And so we're gonna make them connect. So that's what number 1 means. And it wants you to back stitch at opening to reinforce seam. So do you see how this is a loose thread right here? That means that they did not back stitch. Back stitching is when with your machine, when you stitch normally, you stitch down like this and you don't go back over your stitching. But when you back stitch, you have your machine, and then your machine has a reverse function that allows you to stitch back on top of where you already stitch. That is called a back stitch. And back stitching, because it reinforces that seam line, a seam line is where 2 pieces of fabric come together, and that's where you are sewing. So this is the seam line right here. By back stitching and reinforcing the seam line, if you were to try to pull it apart, it would be really sturdy. If you don't back stitch, then there's a chance that the threads may pull loose if you try to pull the 2 fabrics together. So because they don't want it to come out on the bottom here, they want you to back stitch. Now we're gonna look at the second instruction. With right sides together, always right sides together, pin pocket 5 to front 1. So we can see in the drawing here, this is our 1 piece. If it's gray, that means it's the right side. So the right side of the fabric is facing us. Oops. The right side of the fabric is facing us. So the back of my hand is facing the front. So you're gonna pin it first. So these 2 little black dots means that you're gonna use some of these pins here to hold the fabric together, so that when you sew it, it doesn't slide. So a big part of putting together garments is actually making sure that the fabric is aligned properly on top of one another and it doesn't slide, because especially with a fabric that's very thin like this, machines have a thing called the feed dogs. It's a little function that moves the fabric up little by little like that, right? And sometimes if you have a really thin fabric like this, it'll grab the fabric too fast and then you won't be able to get a proper stitch in. And sometimes it'll pull one side further than the other. So what ends up happening is that you end up having warping with your stitches. And so by pinning your fabric together, you decrease the chances of your fabric moving while you're actually stitching it. So it's saying you're gonna pin the pockets onto the front panel here. And then you're gonna stitch. So let's read it again. With right sides together, pin pocket 5 to front 1 and back and side front. Ah, matching dots having raw edges even. Ooh, so this is the complicated part. It mentions back and side front, right? Which is this. The back and side front is on the back side of one here. And that's why I drew this right here. So you have your one piece. Your one piece is here and you connected it. We're going to connect it here. There's going to be a seam between 2 and 1. And in between that seam with 2 to 1, that's where 5 sits. So that's why I had to draw this little diagram, because it doesn't show 2 behind. Otherwise, you would sew 5 directly onto 1. And then you wouldn't know that you're supposed to have 2 in order to make that pocket like this. So that's why it says pin pocket to front 1 and back and side front. So then I think it would be easier if I were to actually like get the pieces and then we would just start sewing it, but that's fine. And then you want to stitch in 3/8 of a seam. So that means 3/8 of an inch. You're gonna measure the distance from the edge. You're gonna measure 3/8 out and then sew from there. So your line is not gonna be directly on the edge of the fabric. And again, why is that for seam allowance? It's because if you were to sew right on the edge here, there isn't a lot of fabric that will hold the seam together when you try pulling on it. So if you were to sew directly on the edge here and pull on it, the fabric would come undone because it does this thing called fraying, which I'm sure you must have heard before. Fraying is when you have the threads that make up the fabric actually start pulling out from the fabric itself. And so when you do a seam allowance, you're gonna measure 3/8 of an inch away from the edge and then sew. And so in your mind, you might be like, wait a minute, but doesn't that decrease the amount of fabric that you have to actually be like presentable on the skirt? But that's why the pattern itself, the patterns incorporate seam allowance, I think. I think the patterns do incorporate seam allowance. So that actually then the finished product would then look like this. That's why we have so much extra fabric. So then when we sew along this, then it's actually tight, it's firm. So it's saying to press the seam toward the pocket, pressing pocket out. This is more, I think, of like a quality of life thing. When you have, because the pocket is going to be, let's just actually use the pocket. The pocket is going to be here. And then you're going to have the fabric from the pocket out like this. And then you're going to have the fabric from the actual skirt like this. So this is called your seam, right? And your seam allowance makes it so that your stitch is somewhere in here. This is your seam allowance. Your seam allowance is free fabric. And so all that they're saying here is that you're gonna wanna iron it flat so that both fabrics are facing this direction, like that. Oh, that goes into something separately. There's something called a serger. It's a type of machine and a type of stitch where if you use it, you don't need to worry about seam allowance, because the way that it does the stitch, it makes it so that the seam is strong enough that no matter how much you pull the fabric, it's not going to come undone, which means that you don't need a seam allowance. But especially when you're doing handmade projects, you're probably not going to use a serger right off the bat. And so you're going to be stuck with seam allowance. And so in order to reduce the amount of bulk that you have in your skirt, they're going to have you iron it down like that. All right, number 4. Pin front to back. What does that mean? Pin front to back at side front seams. What does that mean? Oh my god. Okay, pin front to back. What is this called? And then there's back and side front. Back and side front is 2. What is one called? One is just called front. So what's back? Oh, I know. This is 2 pieces together like this. Technically, they're like this, right? 2 pieces together like this. The edge here where my pinkies are, this is where it's gonna connect. So each piece here is gonna connect to one side of one. So let's say this side is gonna connect to this side. This side is gonna connect to this side, right? So that means this side is going to be considered side, because when we look at the skirt, the one piece is going to connect somewhere over here to 2. Orientation wise, this is the side of the fabric. So I'm guessing that 2, where this seam line right here where we sewed it is on the back here. So I think this piece is called back, and then this piece is called side. So you're gonna pin the front. So the front is gonna be 1 in front here to back at side front seams. So I think it's saying that you're gonna make this right here. Matching large dots. Stitch side front seams, leaving an opening between large dots. Stitch pocket edges together from side front seam to upper edge. It lost me. I'm gone. I don't understand it. What is it talking about? Back and side front is a confusing piece name, right? Isn't it terrible? But if I think about it, this is the back. This is the absolute back, because that's where this seam line is. This is back, and inside would have to be where it connects to 1. So pin front to back at side front seams. So side front would have to be these, because this whole piece here is front, but these are the sides of front. I think that's what it's talking about. Pin front to back at side front seams. So side front side seams, matching large dots. Stitch side front seams. So 1 is going to connect to 2 here. So that's this seam here. Leaving an opening between large dots. So in this case, when you're sewing, you're going to sew the little bit up here and you're going to sew down here. That's because if you were to sew this gap right here, you'd be sewing the pocket shut. I still don't quite understand how pockets work. But I do know that if you sew in between then, it's gone. Your pocket is not usable. You are sewing shut the little opening that allows you to put your hand through it. All right, so that's number 4. Clip garment back inside front seam allowance below the pocket. Press seam open. Oh, this is another quality of life thing. So it's saying in the seam allowance, you're gonna make an incision. Why does that sound so medical? You're gonna cut a small piece into the seam allowance here, and then you're just gonna fold it towards your pocket. I think it's so that it reduces the amount of bulk that you have. All right, that's steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's okay, we could do this. Why I think it's important to go over all the numbers is to try to visualize what it's supposed to look like before actually putting together the garment. That way you have a better idea of what you're doing. Because if you're trying to figure it out at the same time that you're trying to like match all the notches together and the dots together, that's a real nightmare. You'll stitch part of the side seam and then around the pocket edge. Yeah. So you stop right around the edge of the pocket. All right, so number 6. To gather upper edge of skirt between notches nearest center back. Stitch along seam line and 1/4 of an inch inside seam line using a long machine stitch, breaking gathering stitches at side front seams and keeping the pockets free. Okay, let's break this down. To gather the upper edge of the skirt, so the area that's going to go around the waist here, gathering means to bunch it together in order to give it a specific look. So to go back to it, that's how we're able to get these little like pleats and stuff there. So to gather the upper edge of skirt between the notches. Where are the notches? Oh, the notches are right here. So that's that little triangle and then that. Sorry, it's a little hard to see. But there's 2 different triangles here. So it's probably saying from between that distance, that's where we're going to be bunching. Nearest the center back. What is the orientation here? Is this center back? I think this is center back. Because this is the seam line between the two pieces. So I think this one's called center back. So to gather the upper edge between the notches nearest the center back. So I think the gathering starts here. No, but why does it say it starts there? That's weird. Stitch along the seam line and a 1/4 inch inside the seam line. Using a long machine stitch. So a long machine stitch is the only way I could think about it is setting your machine stitch length to 4. So on your sewing machine, you should have a dial that allows you to dictate how big your stitches are. And so mine goes from 1 to 4. And so 1 is going to be the itty bitty little stitch. That just means that your machine is not pulling the fabric a lot before the needle goes through the fabric again. So if my stitch is really, really small, then my fabric is going like this, and then my needle is going like this. So it's very, very, the fabric progression is really small. So the more I increase the stitch length, so let's say it's at 2 now, that means my fabric is going to be moving a little bit quicker, and then my needle is going to be moving at the same rate. But because my fabric is moving faster, the distance and the time at which my needle hits the fabric is going to be greater. So if I move it to 3, then my fabric moves like this. And then my needle, now it's, instead of doing this, it's at a longer interval. So 4 is the longest that it can go. And the reason why those kind of stitches are really important, I think it's called like a gathering stitch. I forget what else it's called. Also known as like a temporary stitch, because there's so much space between where the needle hits the fabric, it means that the stitch is not very tight and it doesn't hold well. So if you were to try to pull apart a piece of fabric that has been stitched together using a gather stitch or a length 4 stitch, it'll come undone really easily. But the purpose of having this kind of stitch is to keep your fabric together, but you can remove it easily. Sometimes people use it as a temporary stitch, so sometimes they will sew it to make sure that the fabric won't move, and then they will do a more precise line right near it. In this case, it's called the gather stitch because it's called the gather stitch because you take the 2 loose ends and then you can actually start pulling your fabric along the length of that string, and it bunches it together. Have you guys ever had a drawstring bag? It's very similar, where like, let's say you have the 2 ends of the drawstring, you pull it and then the center just gets tighter, right? It's the same thing. It's moving the fabric of the bag closer together, but it's on the same track. It's on the same like ends of the drawstring bag. And so in this case, the loose threads act as the track that the fabric will move against to start gathering. And so it's saying that you're going to be doing this gather line a quarter of the way into the fabric. And I think you do it a quarter of the way so that when you actually do your basting stitch, oh my god, that's right, Cygnus, thank you. It's called a basting stitch. That's another term for it. So then when you actually go through and then make your real stitch, you can always take out the basting stitch after. Stitch along seam line and a quarter of an inch inside the seam line. Oh, interesting. So I think what it's saying is that you're gonna stitch normally along your seam line, and then you do the gather stitch, which would make sense because let's say your fabric has not been attached, right? You haven't sewn it together yet. If you start doing a gather stitch, then your 2 pieces of fabric are gonna start coming undone. Wait, it's not double-sided. Wait a minute. Oh, maybe you need to stitch along the seam line first, so that it remains intact. So then you can actually use your gather stitch. I need to figure out how to change the length of stitches on my machine to do my gathering stitches. It should be an easy option. I wonder, what kind of machine do you have, actually? To be honest, I don't know much about machines, but what I'm more concerned about is it like an old antique machine or is it a newer machine? It looks like you make 2 gathering stitches on top. Oh my god, you're so right. Oh, I get it. Okay, so what it's saying is that you're gonna make a top line. You stitch really close to the seam line, and then you stitch about a quarter of an inch below it so that when you pull it, then the track is actually on 2 pieces of threads, so it's a little more sturdy. That when you start bunching your fabric together like this, then you have the top line that's up here and then you have the bottom line that's down here. Thank you so much, Flames. Oh my god, I couldn't imagine that. That makes things a lot easier. Using a long machine stitch, breaking, gathering stitches at side, front seams, and keeping the pockets free. That makes sense. Alright. What does the note say? You have cut 2 yoke front and 4 yoke back sections. You have cut 2 yoke front That is correct. I have cut 2 yoke front and 4 back yoke sections. 1 front and 2 backs will be used as the yokes. These will be interfaced and stitched to the outside of the garment. The remaining sections will be used as the facings when completed are on the inside of the garment facing your body. I think the yoke is what the attachment is called, like what the waistband is called. I think it's called a yoke, and why it's a separate piece is because I'm gonna attach this thing called interfacing on it. I actually labeled it on here, interfacing. Interfacing, I don't think it's a type of fabric. I think it's actually like a type of material that when you iron it onto your fabric, it makes it stiffer. Because if you look at this fabric, it's very slinky, right? It doesn't have much support to it. So the interfacing gives it that support where, like, if you were to pull up the skirt, let's say you have it around your waist and you were to pull it up, it would actually be strong enough to pull up the rest of the skirt and it wouldn't sag. So what I think it's saying is that the reason why you have so many different pieces is because one side is going to have the interfacing and one is not. So the one that doesn't have the interfacing is going to be used to seal the interfacing in. So essentially it's going to be your fabric interfacing that's attached to it, and then you're going to attach another piece of fabric to the outside. All right, so number 7. She's a brother SQ1985. I'm gonna look that up. Brother SQ1985. Oh, 9185. Got it. 9185. Oh, it's a computerized machine? Whoa, that's crazy. Oh, maybe because it's a computerized machine, you don't know where the stitch length settings are. Oh, that's so interesting. My old machine was just a knob or something, I think, but this one has like digital settings. Yeah, for a machine like this, these like digital machines are supposed to make it a lot easier because it has presets, because it's a computer. It has presets and it'll start and it'll like sew for you, I think. It can't put together the garment or anything like that, but if you were to put it on a certain setting and you were just to press the go button, then it would just start moving. Something that has been like an important part of machines up until the digital machines. Actually, tell me, does your brother machine have a pedal? In order to make the sewing machine go, normally you would put your foot on a pedal and then you would push down like this, and that dictates the speed that your sewing machine sews at. But I wonder if you use a digital machine. Yes, it has a pedal. Oh, okay, so you're still controlling it. Never mind. I'm like, is it all the way like automated? Is it really doing it on its own? But it does have speed setting as well. That's crazy. These kind of machines, I think, go upward of like $300 to $600. My machine is a Singer. It's I think it's considered an industrial machine because it's meant to sew through like really thick layers of fabric. For day-to-day sewing, I really don't need a machine that powerful. But it was what was on sale and it was a gift, so I'm not complaining too much, although it does get really, really noisy because of the power it has. Every time the needle, like every time it sews, it's like boom, 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 which is like a big part of the reason why I'm a little worried to sew on stream, just because of how loud it may come through the mic. But so pedal plus I can set the max speed. Okay, that makes sense. I forgot why we started talking about that. Oh yeah, so you can find your stitch length. Oh yeah, 2 running stitches so that they hold, gather sturdy. Oh yeah. Because if it was just 1, the thread itself might break, but if it's 2, it's gonna be a lot stronger. It's a stabilizer. They add to things like shirt collars. Yeah. So that's probably what's in here. There's a one side of the fabric probably has a stabilizer. To be honest though, it doesn't feel like it. I think what they did instead is that they added this stitch close to the top to act as like a stabilizer, because this thing doesn't feel like it has something in it. But yeah, if you like men's shirt collars and stuff like that, or even just regular collars might have it. I didn't buy either machine. My old one was a hand-me-down. This new one was a hand-me-down to my partner. Oh, that's really nice. It's cool that you get to use something like that. My first sewing machine was someone's grandma's machine. It's like a 35-year-old machine, I think. And it was broken. It wouldn't hold the tension right. When you're sewing, the machine itself has to have some level of tension so that every time it dispenses thread, it dispenses the thread evenly. If your tension is messed up on your machine, then your stitches won't come out even, because it's sometimes letting too much thread come out, or it's too tight and not enough thread is coming out. Both machines have a broken needle threader somehow. That's not the end of the world. A needle threader is an accessory that allows you to put the thread through the eye of the needle without needing to do it manually. Needle threaders, there's a specific way you can wrap the thread around the needle threader that allows you to pull it through. But yeah, it's manageable otherwise. I mean, it sucks not to have it, but if you're to have a part broken on your machine, you do not want it to be anything else. All right, number 8. With right sides together, pin skirt to yoke, matching centers and notches, placing small dots at side seams. So if you imagine this is the yoke, so this is, what is the, I don't even know what's the top. I don't know if you're pinning this or if you're pinning that, but whatever side that you're pinning, the skirt is, the inside of the skirt is going to be on this side, and then you're gonna pin it like that. Matching centers and notches, pull up gathering stitches to fit. So the skirt itself is gonna have a bunch of gathers in it. So imagine this is all gathered, right? But it's an entire thing full of gathered. You see how nice that looks when it's gathered? Hell yeah, that's why I chose this fabric. To be honest, I don't even remember what type of fabric this is, but it is definitely not cotton. I don't think. I think it's probably some sort of polyester. But it's saying that you have to accommodate the gathered material as you're sewing like this. So as you could see, when it's bunched up like this, it adds quite a bit of layers, right? So the thicker it is, the more likely that your machine is to slide the fabric and sort of like undo what's here. So that's why it's really important to make sure that everything is pinned properly so that it stays in place and it doesn't come undone. Yeah, it's saying to baste. So it's saying to use the really long stitch to keep it in place first to make sure everything is aligned, and then you're gonna go through and sew it. Baste the upper edge. So number 9, baste the upper edge of the pocket to front, having raw edges even, stitch the seam, press seam towards yoke. That's another quality of life thing. Just zooming past these. And then number 10. Oh, so we don't need this, but if we had wanted to, we could try to attach some ribbon to it, but we're not going to need that. I'm not going to do that to this. Unless I happen to get some really nice like white ribbon, but even still, like this fabric is just so light that adding ribbon would make it heavier and I don't think it would flow properly. Some waistbands yoke skip the stabilizer and just use 2 fabrics. Yeah, probably depending on how strong that fabric is. The interfacing won't stretch, so it helps to prevent the waistband from stretching out over time. That is true too. I didn't think about that. So if you can imagine this thin fabric, if it has a lot of weight pulling on it, it's gonna warp over time. It may look like this, it may look like that, but the interfacing is stiff. So it helps keep it in a certain position. So that like as you like pull, tug on it or whatever, it stays pretty firm. Oh my god, guys. We actually did it. Holy shit. I didn't realize the part that made it really complicated was the actual naming convention for the pieces. Because if we were to go back to... If we go back to here... The back and side front, not knowing that's what they called this piece here, it doesn't make any sense when you're trying to put it together and like orientation and stuff like that. Wild. Dang, my brain was ready to give up. I feel like I don't have a brain cell left. Alright, I guess we'll start. We'll take the next 5 minutes to just wrap up. I hope that was an interesting experience for you guys. For those of you who have never worked on a pattern before, it's a lot of visualizing. It's a lot of actually moving the pieces together before you actually sew them to make sure that you're gonna put them together correctly. Yeah, but when it does come together, it's very rewarding because then you're like, oh, I put in the time to figure out how this was gonna work, where everything was supposed to go. I was the one who laid out the fabric and then put the template on top of it and then cut it out. And then I transferred all the different dots and stuff, and I made the notches in the fabric to make sure that it's directional. And then I sewed the back front seams together, and then I attached the pockets, but I had to make sure to pin them first before actually sewing them. And then afterwards I pressed the seams to one side for quality of life, and then I had to stitch twice to make a gather stitch, but making sure to avoid the pockets. And then I had to actually take that piece and then attach it to the yoke. But before that, I actually had to put the interfacing on the yoke, and I have to attach it to the skirt, and then make sure that the bunches are not going to get misaligned when I actually start sewing it. And then you finish sewing on the yoke, and then that's it. And then you flip it inside out, and then you're able to stick your hand in a pocket, and you're like, oh my god, this is amazing. And yeah, and then all that time spent feels worth it. So yeah, that's the most rewarding part about sewing. It can be really like complex trying to interpret what these things mean, but then after you figure out, you're like, okay, I think I could do it. They should like put the name in quotations or italics or something. It would just be better, yeah, if they maybe had a label for each edge rather than assuming people know what the back, side, front seam is. I guess you could like figure it out eventually, but yeah. Ooh. Oh, there's one thing that we missed. Oops. Continue as follows. There's more. I forgot. There's a zipper. We don't need view D, so then come over to this side, because I was looking at this and I'm just like, wait a minute. So now that you've attached the yoke onto here, you can see the interfacing is facing out. So they're saying that this is where you can attach the zipper. And then you have to actually attach the yoke to the skirt. And then this, it's showing you this is how you attach the zipper. And then you finally finish the yoke. But that's a lot. We're not gonna go through that tonight. Oh man. A self-drafted pattern would be labeled like that properly. It is true. I think it's because these are industrial patterns that it's probably also a thing where it's like the faster they can make the pattern, the more money that they can get. So maybe, because like if you were to use a pattern by someone, let's say they posted on Etsy, there's going to be a lot more care in that pattern than there are in these industrial ones. You can definitely bet on that. Better labeling, better explanation of instructions, definitely pictures, especially if it's like a digital, especially if it's like a pattern that's been uploaded online. My brain is dead. Okay, we'll wrap it around. We'll wrap it up here, but thank you everyone for coming to this stream. It was a lot of yapping. It was a lot of trying to figure out how to get this done, but we did it. And so I think I feel pretty good. I think I could actually like transfer all the dots and actually make the notches in the fabric so that I could try sewing this on stream. I'll have my sewing machine set up. I'll probably mute it every time that I turn on my sewing machines. That way it doesn't come through very loudly on the mic. Because even then, if I have my sewing machine on my desk, the noise suppression will capture it. But yeah. Dang, I was thinking this might have a zipper. I know. I feel like zippers can be pretty easy once you understand how to attach them. But the hard part is that like if you don't have the easy zipper attachments, it could be just a little bit harder. Dang, this would be so fun to sew this together IRL. Definitely better to have a second opinion when you're sewing something, because you may think that you have aligned something correctly, but someone could be like, dude, those things are mismatched, and you're like, what are you talking about? I put so much time, and then you look at it and you're just like, oh man. That's why I took this to a sewing class. But yeah. Alrighty everyone. Thanks for coming to stream tonight and welcoming me back after just a short stream last week. I was thinking about doing Alan Wake tomorrow. We'll see if I can actually do that. But that would be fun. And then probably start back on the streams again next week. So I'll make sure to post a schedule online. I try to do it on Sundays, and I'm also trying to do my thumbnails in waiting rooms for the week, so that way you guys have an idea of when streams are. So yeah, thank you to those of you who are new. Welcome into the community. This is actually my first sewing stream in a long time, but I saw this project and I really wanted to dig it out again. And so we'll probably see more sewing streams in the future as we try to finish this project. Yeah. All right, everyone. Good night. Good night. I will see you guys later. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.